It's clear that the battlefield is blazing on both sides of the veil. This is a year where we are going to see the fury of the adversary's kingdom work like never before. Things are definitely going to be biblical. Hi guys, I am back from winter break. I hope you're all having a happy new year. I know there's all kinds of crazy things going on right now. We have so much to talk about, and it's a lot. There is so much going on. There are so many conversations happening right now all across America, all over the world, and there are a lot of things that are resurfacing from a while ago. It's a lot. So what I decided to do is take some clips from all of these different conversations that are happening all across the country from all different kinds of people, YouTubers, radio personalities, news anchors, podcasters, people of different faiths, churches, even politics. And I've pieced together this entire narrative and sort of conversation. And what you're going to see is conversation from the past being fulfilled right now in our day. Even conversation from just a week ago, a couple of weeks ago, talking about things to come that have since already happened that fast. So things are hastening. As I've said before in previous videos, this is a great time to pray. I mean, it's always a great time to pray. But right now, with the way that things are working so quickly between heaven and earth, it's been my experience, as I've mentioned before, that when I pray, those prayers are heard immediately and things happen fast. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you, and then afterwards, let's talk about it. And then of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts, as always, down in the comments. But I want you to know that even though this video is going to feel pretty heavy because I'm going to dump everything that's been going on over the last few weeks into a video montage, so it's going to feel like a lot. When I come back on afterwards to talk about it, we're going to lift that heaviness and we're going to talk about all of the good that's happening right now and that is also yet to come because of all of this. So we're going to talk about hope and looking forward to each new day with joyful anticipation. I have so many good things I want to share with you, but let's go ahead and get all of this heaviness out of the way. You're going to notice a theme, you're going to notice patterns, and you're probably going to notice some scripture prophecy being fulfilled. Before I play the video, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. All right, here it is.
I purchased a motorbike for a few of my sons, and on Christmas afternoon we went out to the garage to just start. We weren't going to ride it, we were just going to try to start it. So I drove it down the driveway, into the road, started to turn around, and hit a patch of ice. It went one way. I stuck my leg out to try to catch me, and it just split me in two. Fractured my hip, ruptured a disc in my back. Well, they hauled me up to the hospital, and that night they did surgery on my hip. To make a long story short, my other lung filled up with blood clots, developed two large abscesses and burst, and I was suddenly in a very life-threatening situation. I was in a coma for about 6 to 7 weeks. My pancreas quit working. My body filled up with a real rare form of staph infection that spread from head to toe, and I developed a disease called ARDS, Adult Respiratory Distress Syndrome, which most people that get it are dead. I was a dead man, and during part of that time of my coma, I literally passed out of my body into the spirit world. I want to tell you that there is indeed a world after this. There is life after death. There is a God. And the world over there, it has the most incredible peace you could ever possibly imagine. And one of the things that has fascinated me, and one of the things I was literally told when I visited this other side, was the day would come when that society of peace would be built on this land. Well, I had a desire to study many of these things before this took place, but it has greatly increased since that time. I have found out in my studies that it is not just the Hopi Indians that have that story. It is almost every single culture around this world. The stories seem to correlate with every different culture about this great white God coming and visiting them, teaching them. In some cases, and this was fascinating, was we found that the Mayans and the Aztecs told us that when he came, he not only taught them about a way of life, but he taught them the arts, he taught them sciences, he taught them astronomy, he taught them how to grow cottons of many different colors. But he also warned them about this. He told them the world would be shaken 3 times before he came, the first 2 with one hand, the third time with both hands. And he explained to them that they could avoid that third shaking if the people would turn back to God and would keep the commandments he had given them. Well, the first shaking, he gave them some prophecies to watch for that would take place around that time period, and they would know that the first shaking was about to take place. And so they believed that the First World War was that first great shaking. Now, the second great shaking was to end with a gourd of ashes being dropped from one of these carriages in the sky. And where it landed, it would destroy everything where it landed, and nothing would grow for some time or be alive in that area for some time. Very great description of what took place with Hiroshima and our bomb. One bad note to that, though, in that second shaking, was he told them that the white nation that dropped that gourd of ashes would have a gourd of ashes dropped upon them in the third shaking, if the third shaking were to take place.
Then, on January 16th, it's all about Mars at opposition. The red planet appears at its closest and brightest.
How did Mars get its name? It was named after the Roman god of war because of its blood-red color, reminding people of battles and warriors.
2025 will be known as war. A lot of it.
And nations plan horrific war, the like is never seen before, and taxes rise and lively down, and nations wear perpetual frown. For those who live the century through, which would be our time, in fear and trembling this shall do. For storms will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore, and as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born.
News Chopper 4 is live over our other big wildfire this morning. Now, this one is the Bridge Fire. It's in the San Gabriel Mountains.
San Gabriel Mountains.
The San Gabriel Mountains.
Look at this. This whole neighborhood is tore up, and look, the angel's still there.
Our duty is to get rid of the things that are standing in the way for God's blessing. God says, I will bring it out, and this exposure shall cause the nation to shake.
As we begin with breaking news this morning, we're learning a preliminary magnitude 7.0 earthquake has just struck off the coast near Eureka, California, and a tsunami warning has been issued.
Now we are hearing reports of shaking throughout the Bay Area.
God said the shaking is good for America. You're about to embark on a journey that you have never embarked upon before.
We start tonight with that breaking news in Southern California. Fear and concern is growing tonight as flames light up the Los Angeles hillsides. Firefighters are scrambling to contain several major fires tonight. Just into our newsroom, we are learning of another fire erupting, this time in Sylmar in the San Fernando Valley. Extremely strong winds are fanning the dangerous and potentially deadly flames that have already forced tens of thousands of people to evacuate.
The National Weather Service has predicted that the winds are going to pick up and get worse.
And from the south of your land and throughout the middle of your country, from west and then back to south and east, north, they shall say, this has never, ever happened before in our country and in our culture.
They have seen some significant battles before, but the scale of the impact today is larger than anything that I have seen in my career.
You know, I've been doing these things for many, many years here in California. I have literally never seen anything as destructive as this fire, guys. This is in the heart of LA. This is a densely packed neighborhood, and this is just one street. And there is nothing left on this street standing, not a single home. And if you pan up to the right a bit and you see the smoke rising there, frankly, it is a scene of an apocalypse. It's just extraordinary. Absolutely breathtaking, the amount of damage. We're talking about a 3,000-acre fire at last count. I believe in the next hour, or 40 minutes or so, when we get an update, we are going to see that figure much higher. And as I say, the figures in terms of the homes, the buildings, the businesses destroyed, 3,000 high school students who may simply not have a high school to go back to. It's a tale of utter devastation.
I can't even imagine what the thought process is of rebuilding this. It looks like a war zone is the best description I have for it. So I can't really comment on what's to come. It's unfathomable.
And so many people over the next days, weeks, months are going to come back and find that they have nothing to come back to, completely destroyed.
Well, I've worked 50 years and now I have nothing. I have no clothes, no furniture, no house. My thought process was more like, I've had to pack once or twice before. Our house is near the town, the fire department, etc. I didn't prepare for the worst. I just sort of did it more haphazardly. And you move on to, like everyone in this situation, I still have a mortgage, to adapt. What's next? Where do I find housing? You start that whole process because you have to take one step ahead of another. But what's lost in that house with all of my wife's family's things and Marcel's, those things aren't ever going to be replaceable. You have the memories, but that stuff bothers you more than a piece of art or a fancy vase or something like that. You start thinking about all the items I didn't take and should have put in.
Planes flying above the area, capturing the massive reach of the inferno. The fire jumping Pacific Coast Highway, burning all the way to the ocean, even threatening the famed Getty Villa Art Museum. And 2 more fires igniting overnight, spreading to Pasadena, where this Jewish temple erupted in flames.
It's like a bad, horrific dream.
In Altadena, dramatic video showing elderly patients being evacuated from a senior center. The Palisades fire igniting mid-morning Tuesday, with the area's hilly, winding roads quickly clogging with cars.
The homeowners are saying they're unable to access any exit routes. There's fire on both sides of the roads.
We are in bumper-to-bumper traffic right now as hundreds of people try to get out. You can see flames here on both sides of the road with very little visibility. Many abandoning their vehicles to flee on foot.
Policemen started telling everybody, get out of your car, leave your car if you want to live.
A bulldozer brought in to clear a path, pushing dozens of cars out of the way. Smoke from the growing fire darkening the skies. This man breaking down, desperate to reach his dogs.
I've been trying to get to my house for 5 hours.
And many celebrities. Chris Pratt posting overnight, please send prayers and strength to those affected. James Woods posting this video of the fires approaching his home. Beloved actor Steve Guttenberg among those stepping up to help his neighbors.
When things like this occur, you really realize how vulnerable you are and how important community is.
And to a degree, I can sometimes agree that people bring judgment upon themselves. God doesn't initiate that in this time of grace. However, it does happen. Whenever there's an earthquake, people say it's a judgment of God. I disagree. Jesus has already said to us, told us, there will be rumors of wars, there will be earthquakes and famines, and this is a sign. Labor pain. What does that mean? Something is being born. There's so much bigger out of this. Why do we try and manipulate people by telling them that God constantly wants to judge them? That mindset, as I mentioned in my devotional there, makes them conscious of God's judgment all the time. You say, well, that'll keep them straight. And the fact is that if we're not there and we are not present to the moment, and we are not available to these people that suffer, then we have done a great injustice to the kingdom of God and to the Lord Jesus Christ. We must be available to them.
I mean, same as God, that'll hit me in a while. It took my wife and I almost 40 years to put it together, but it's the way it is, so we'll go on.
Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
Losing the school.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild. We're getting
Why
the
was there
resources.
no water in the hydrants,
That's
Governor?
all being.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
Here on Lockman Lane, there are several homes burning. This is the one that firefighters were trying to put out a little while ago, but you can see right now it's just kind of out of control. Since then, firefighters have lost water pressure on the hydrant, so they can't get any more water onto this fire and the ones down the hill because of the water pressure issues.
Why isn't there any water coming out of the fire hydrants? Los Angeles has had 2 years of record rainfall. All the rain just washes into the ocean.
But slowly they are routed out to seek diminishing water spout, and men will die of thirst before the ocean rises to mount the shore.
A decade ago, California voted to spend billions on water storage and reservoirs. Today, Governor Newsom hasn't finished building a single one. They've done nothing to store water in a decade. Trump was just in California this fall and told Gavin he needed to get it together.
You have so much water, and all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed, and you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle, because no place is like California. I go to Austria. The head of Austria tells me, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests. And you have all that water that could be used as water, what they call water flow, and you'd stop many of these horrible fires.
Before Donald Trump left office, he signed an order that would funnel more water from Northern California into Southern California. Newsom, instead of saying thank you, filed a lawsuit to stop it, saying it would kill the smelt. If you don't know what a smelt is, neither did we. It's a fish the size of your pinky. We're saving fish instead of people. But it gets worse. Gavin's been tearing down dams.
The largest dam removal project in U.S. history. And I couldn't be more proud as a father because my kids and their great-great-grandkids will have the opportunity to see something that, has been here since time immemorial.
Again, Trump warned him about this years ago.
Do it differently, and it's a whole different story.
Newsom, after the election, called an emergency special session in California to Trump-proof the state. Not fire-proof it, Trump-proof it, whatever that means.
And Governor Newsom, I think they're grooming him to be the Democratic sugar boy. He's going to be the golden boy here. Eventually, he's going to be the next like Obama. Watch.
The chief says she doesn't have enough firefighters. Just months ago, LA Mayor Karen Bass cut funding from the fire department by around $20 million. And before that, the LA Fire Department sent their extra equipment to Ukraine. Probably could use some of that equipment now. Meanwhile, the mayor of LA has been out of the country the whole time. Mayor Karen Bass has been in Africa for the inauguration of the president of Ghana. Karen Bass isn't going to her own president's inauguration, but she's going to the president of Ghana's.
An apology for being absent while their homes were burning. Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Can you back up, appreciate it. Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today?
Biden was considering Bass for VP.
And I just kind of look at it as almost in a weird kind of way of purification but I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose? Which it's an insane thing to think.
Many people are reporting the significance of the trail or pathway of the California fires in comparison to the projected new California high-speed railway system, mentioning that it seems to be a weird coincidence.
Como, over the last 8 hours, they've been lighting this sky up, charging it to, I don't know what kind of numbers, but this is insane. And this is exactly where they're expecting this event today and tomorrow. But look at these frequencies going on. And not only that, I'm going to prove to you that these are frequencies because you could see it in the cloud wave.
Homeless man with flamethrower busted on suspicion of arson near LA's Kenneth Fire after residents detain him. The unidentified suspect was seen riding around Woodland Hills on a bicycle on Thursday afternoon, setting fire to several old Christmas trees and garbage cans at the same time as the Kenneth Fire started, locals said. Renata Grinchpun told KTLA she was in her backyard when she heard a car screech to a stop and a man yelling, "Neighbors, he's trying to start a fire. Call 911. She saw the suspect holding a large propane tank or a flamethrower, which others described as a blowtorch, as he tried to torch debris in the street. Neighbors jumped into action and cornered the man as he tried to ride off, as caught in part in a video with one man demanding, "Put it down." "We really banded together as a group," Grinchpun told KTLA. A few gentlemen surrounded him and got him on his knees. They got some zip ties, a rope, and we were able to do a citizen's arrest. One witness told Fox 11 that the suspect was very focused on moving forward with what they described as being more like a blowtorch. The LAPD confirmed an arson investigation was launched. Asked if the Kenneth Fire was started by an arsonist, LAPD Senior Lead Officer Sean Dentz told KTLA, "At this time, that's what we believe. It's being investigated as a crime." However, referring to the arrest, the LAPD stated on X late Thursday, "We cannot confirm any connection to any fire by this suspect at this time. The suspect is believed to be homeless." LAPD confirmed that he was arrested and taken to the department's Topanga station.
He's starting a fire! We need to get that from him! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down right now! Put it down!
Oh my gosh. No, this is crazy. I can't even believe it. Because I'm like
a 30-year-old guy, you know.
Crazy. Because I'm like, how does a fire jump literal cities?
I know. I can understand there, but all the way over
exactly. That doesn't make any sense. Okay.
We're just mapping out here are under mandatory evacuations. And obviously you can hear all of our phones are going off some type of alert. An evacuation warning, it looks like.
Yeah, my alert reads, This is an emergency message from the LA County Fire Department. An evacuation warning has been issued in your area.
Yeah.
This
is what this looks like.
Remain vigilant of any threats and be ready to evacuate. Gather loved ones, pets, and supplies. Continue to monitor local weather news and the webpage alertla.org for more information.
Yeah, so these alerts come, based on where you are.
It looks like on my phone.
Yeah, and here we are in West LA, and we're getting an alert. We'll have to look into why.
Governor Newsom declares state of an emergency in California due to the bird flu. So right before the inauguration, this is all happening right now, folks. This is real time.
LA is one of the most evil place, to be. Like, my experience there was not something I expected, and it was like probably the worst. I've never encountered like a hellhound anywhere else but in LA. So what that means to me, there's a lot of exchange that's being done there. A lot of people are selling their soul, selling themselves for, fame, money, all of that. If there's a place that is called hell, and there is such a being that is called the devil, he's sitting right on top of the Hollywood sign.
Playboy.com staff members released some blueprints that they found a few years ago that show underneath the Playboy Mansion is a series of tunnels that were constructed to link Hugh Hefner's world-famous domicile to the homes of Jack Nicholson, James Caan, Kirk Douglas, and Warren Beatty. The blueprints, which show that the construction project was built in the 70s and 80s, were discovered in the Playboy archives by staff writers kept under wraps for so many years.
People were terrified after LA was set on red alert after a man exposed that he had been working in a Starbucks located in a secret underground tunnel that is used by the top 1%ers to allow them to go anywhere much faster and avoid traffic, with access and exit points near major places like LAX, Dodger Stadium, and more. With even a report from the LA Times saying that a man named Warren Schufelt created a radio x-ray that was able to uncover a series of elaborate tunnels in downtown LA in the exact same location, just like what the former Starbucks employee mentioned. And these tunnels are being uncovered as we speak throughout the country.
Peace, brother. I mean, basically, you got an underground roadway system here that runs all the way to Maine, to Washington, D.C., to Colorado. It's fully stocked. It runs completely underground. And this is stocked with food, water, everything they need. It's an underground city. So this is the north entrance, and we're going to go see if we can do some more digging.
JFK, UFOs, and who has Jeffrey Epstein's little black book?
We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you.
So it was reported that lightning struck the U.S. Capitol building and the Washington Monument in Washington and the One World Trade Center and Empire State Building in New York on New Year's Eve.
On an iconic day, the day that ushers in the coming year, and on its eve. This goes way beyond. On top of it all, it didn't happen in summer or other seasons it happened in winter, which is rare. In winter, it's rare for lightning to strike.
It could represent a call to repentance and a warning.
People are like, where did this deep state come from? It didn't happen overnight. It's been a degradation of leadership positions for decades. It started, I think, maybe in the 40s and 50s. They have entrenched themselves in the how do I make me popular in the DC class, so when I leave this position, I don't care about whether the agency is improved. I care whether or not the next person behind me is going to own up to what I left it and how I get out of it.
But when I leave, I need to make sure that the person behind me doesn't rat me out.
And doesn't wreck the agency. You know, Bill Barr is a perfect example. Bill Barr was the one who was the attorney general while
this is going on.
Everything's going on. I had the institutional knowledge of having run the Russiagate investigation, and as a former prosecutor, I was laying out for him who the targets were, who the witnesses were, whatever. These people care more, Barr and company care more about the institution that was DOJ that they were the head of than they do about doing the service of the mission. And that's what all those folks have in common. The Espers, the Haspels, the Pompeos or whoever of the world, they subscribe. They've been in DC for like 30 years. I do agree it's fixable. I think you shut down the Hoover building immediately. I think you literally opening it up the next day as a museum of the deep state. And you let everybody walk the halls for free and leave that behemoth open 365 days a year. You need like 20 people in a skiff to run the FBI. The other 7,000 agents that are sitting in that building should be chasing criminals around America.
The P. Diddy thing is exactly the same. The only chance these have of being released is if you make it into a very big deal. If the American public can come together and demand answers and demand that people go to jail for this, and all of these names are exposed, unless you demand it, it will not have any teeth in Congress or any place else to be released.
And this exposure shall cause the nation to shake.
One other sign that would be of interest was the fact that there would be an alignment of the planets, and that when the planets aligned, it would be a sign that the third shaking was imminent. It would take place at any time at that point.
Get ready for a rare astronomical event. In January 2025, sky watchers around the world will have the chance to witness a stunning celestial event, a planetary alignment, also known as a planetary parade. Starting on January 21st, 6 planets, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, will align and gather in the night sky. Then, on January 25th, Mercury will join them, completing a rare 7-planet alignment. Look towards the western sky after sunset for the best view.
On Thursday night, March the 25th, I was awakened. I heard the Spirit of the Lord beckoning me to pray. During the following hour, I received a vision that shook me. I caught a glimpse of a long table. I knew it was in the White House. I saw a variety of clothing, Western and Eastern, and I suddenly heard a voice saying, "The hand of the betrayer is on the table." And I saw a handshake, a veil, and then shuffling of feet in a strange way. In other words, at the table where this discussion is taking place, there is someone who has the key to deliverance in this nation. I believe it's a future president. However, we are talking about betrayal. We're looking at Iran, and there's a betrayer that's coming from a different source. But the betrayer is someone that can get close. The serpent is in the house.
He's not too happy about the changes coming in January. And also, with those changes comes the transition of the Chinese New Year on January 29th from the dragon to the snake. As seen in the Old Testament and the New Testament, as well as the Book of Mormon, the serpent is a dual symbol that represents both Jesus Christ and Satan. Just as this symbol is a reminder of good versus evil, we are also seeing that reminder right now in January. Yes, the year of the dragon is coming to an end. Satan knows his time is short, and he is very desperate.
The future I want is one that I will build, and I need your help to get there. And I mean to take it. Charge forward. Grasp that future with both hands and rip it apart.
Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology.
Now, if China has this technology, should we have been told? Why haven't we been informed? Well, the whistleblower said that it's because the U.S. government has its own gravitic system and it doesn't want to admit it. The source of what I'm going to tell you about, it's a manifesto that comes from the guy who was claiming to be a whistleblower. He claimed to be a man on the run, hunted by his own government, he said. He blew himself up, apparently, in a Tesla near the front door of the Trump Hotel in Vegas. He said because the government has been lying to us.
Authorities now have a better idea of the moments leading up to this fiery explosion. A Tesla Cybertruck blowing up at the entrance to the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. The driver inside preliminarily identified as a 37-year-old active duty member of the military, Matthew Livelsberger, a Green Beret Special Operations Sergeant previously awarded 2 Bronze Stars.
He says that these are the greatest national security threat in history. It would bypass every single defense system that we have. Imagine an aircraft with an unlimited payload capacity, a floating fortress, invisible, undetectable, capable of delivering weapons or conducting surveillance, parked over our Capitol in D.C. That's the reality that this whistleblower says is there.
You're telling me that 2 men that worked at the same army base in the same time went and rented trucks separately from the same rental company and committed horrible acts on the same day within hours apart is a total coincidence. And add on top of it, you are telling me that a man who tried to take out the president at his golf course just a few months ago visited that same exact army base that these 2 men worked at in the same year 147 times. He visited it 147 times. I think we need to ask what's going on at Fort Bragg because...
Now, this is an interesting part, I think, in correlation with the time of peace. And before the races build anew, a silver serpent comes to view and spews out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth, now grown cold from its heat, and then these men can enlighten the minds of future man.
But when Christ comes to Zion, when he stands on Mount Zion, and the city of Enoch comes down,
aliens. I was waiting for
totally
that.
aliens.
That's a fake.
Well, I don't know if we find out all these UFOs are real, like the military's saying, bro, and they can't explain it. Isn't that the city of Enoch coming down? That's one big space station, brother.
How could you not think that was aliens? Like, if you don't know anything about the gospel, how could you not think that was aliens?
I just want to make clear so the audience knows those UFOs are made by America, and the aliens, it's called Project Bluebeam. Joshua Davidson talked about this in the 90s. They're going to fake an alien invasion as a way to usher in a new world order.
I actually believe that. You have the real thing, which is the city of Enoch coming down, like aliens invading the world, and then you have the counterfeit, which is the fake version that the CIA...
Live broadcast of the Los Angeles wildfires. Viewers believe the news accidentally captured a UFO on camera. First, a mysterious purple orb appeared, spinning eerily in the smoky sky. Then, a blue orb joined in, adding to the bizarre spectacle. But the most chilling moment? An unidentified object suddenly darted across the air at mind-blowing speeds.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith.
Pope enters. What is the crying when the Pope enters Lucifer's tomb?
Why does the Pope look scared? Why does he look afraid? Aren't you the vigor of Christ? Does the story of Jesus sound like a man that walked around with fear? No, he moved with confidence, knowing that he is connected to God.
First Timothy 4, 1-2. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying scroll, or cylinder shape. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, And I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits.
What Michelle did not expect to see was a cylinder-shaped object zipping across her line of sight near LaGuardia Airport. Wow, that was pretty alarming stuff. What did you do with the video, and did you reach out to authorities to share it with them?
Thank you for having me. And when I realized that I had something like this on the video, the first thing I did was I emailed the FAA to let them know what I saw. And maybe
to intermingle and show them how to live and love and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew.
This will be the golden age of America.
America has fought great enemies. It's fought a lion, the United Kingdom, Britain. Remember where you came from. To remember the battle for you to come to this country so you could have religious freedom. You fought a bear. You know the bear is Russia. This Cold War continues. I want to read you a scripture that will enlighten you so much. Woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. For what good is the day of the Lord to you? What he's saying is you're expecting something, but you're not going to get what you're expecting. Pharisees were expecting a different Jesus, a different Messiah. The Jewish people were expecting a different one. And so he says, you're desiring something that's altogether different. But he gives an explanation here that I believe is appropriate for what's happening today and to explain to you why I believe the serpent is in the house. He says, it will be this specific day, as though a man fled from a lion and a bear met him. So he flees the lion, he overcomes the lion. The next big force is a bear. It's right there. Read it, verse 19. And a bear met him. What for? To kill him. But he overcame the bear. And he went into the house, feeling that he was safe, leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. You know why? There was a crack in the wall. Those that were felt safe because they were in the house. But that's where the danger is right now. There's a crack in the wall of the White House. It's a serious...
Some of them considered honorary. Some will have a hand on the casket as it goes into the National Cathedral. And Brett Baer is still riding shotgun with us today. And Brett, we're kind of balancing a lot of stories today and appreciate you coming back here. Think about Carter's life, U.S. Naval Academy, Annapolis, growing up on a peanut farm in Georgia. And then the time that he spent as president, very controversial, I would argue. You think about when his term in office ended and the American hostages who were held in Tehran for 444 days were released, and Ronald Reagan on January 20th, that day in 1981, ushered in a whole new era in American life.
America usually does give a second chance to their presidents in terms of re-election, Brett. And Jimmy Carter's case, and then, of course, in Joe Biden's. Not the case in President-elect Trump coming back for a second term.
As you look at that image of the living presidents, you know, these are moments.
We have to be very, very careful None of these stories are isolated, and that's the problem. There is a greater mind, an even greater godlike mind that is on the horizon that we should be aware is right around.
That has been the desire of the enemy throughout history, right from the beginning, to destroy God's people. He hates God's people. He hates anything God created. So the Lord spoke to me and told me to dedicate the next 18 months to a special time of fasting and prayer for the nation, Israel and the people of God, redeemed by his blood. Why? To preserve God's people.
He wanted me to wake up spiritually more than I already was and understand the significance of Jesus Christ's return to the Jews and how imminent that is. To know that Christ is going to come to the Jews and how we as covenant-keeping members of the church are going to be active participants in that event. I need to share the idea, the urgency that we all need to be ready for Christ to come to meet the Jews. That's a big event, and that shows how much he loves the Jews. And if he loves them that much after all that they've done to him, all that he's endured, the rejection he's faced for 2,000 years, he still loves them, and he's still going to appear to them in person. I don't remember any time in history where Jesus Christ has personally visited an entire nation of unbelievers, but he will visit the nation of the Jews. He will visit them as a people. He's going to give them what they've always wanted, a military victory over their enemies. And then he's going to teach them the fullness of the gospel of his Father, and he's going to receive them with open arms and a forgiving heart. So how much more should we do the same?
And then the final thing that I saw, and I want you to take note of this, I saw a parchment with the word ecology written on it. I have no understanding of that, but I want you to know that's what I saw. Evil abounds, my dear friend, but grace abounds so much more. God is working.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. It's appropriate.
Can the president just say it's going to be the Gulf of America?
That's a really interesting question. The answer is yes. So there's these boards and commissions that rarely get any of attention. You might remember Obama went through one of those boards and commissions and renamed Mount McKinley to Denali. Yes. So it's just a naming commission, and the president has full authority of who sits on them. And so the president is probably going to put 5 or 6 loyalists there and rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
I love that.
By the way, more of our coastline is there. Why is it that we named it the Gulf of Mexico? So that one's getting done. Out of all the ones, it is going to be the Gulf of America, and President Trump, that will be one of his many legacies.
It was the opinion of the prophet Joseph that the city of Enoch was in the Gulf of Mexico, and that Adam offered his sacrifice and built his first altar in Adam-on-Yaman, and the stones of his altar are there now to be seen. The city of Enoch was taken up, but the city of Zion, which we shall build, will remain. It will not be taken away as his city was. It's interesting, because up here you have the land of Jackson County is identified as the place of the Garden of Eden. In our church, this is where the Garden of Eden is. And so, yeah, maybe Enoch, he set up his city, his people, his civilization down here, and maybe it was this entire piece of land that was taken up. It could be.
I saw a conflict with America and China on the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal is in the hands of China right now. And this is a Cuban Missile Crisis kind of scenario that I haven't heard anybody talk about until Donald Trump. It is true national security.
The Panama Canal was built for our military.
That is the choke point right now. We built it. Yeah. A lot of Americans died building it. We never should have given away control of it. It's what connects two hemispheres together. And look, the Chinese are trying to build another canal right now in a neighboring country because they're afraid that America might actually take back control of the Panama Canal. So Greenland plus Panama would strengthen the northern hemisphere, our hemisphere here, the western and northern hemisphere, would strengthen it in a way for generations to come, especially as we are seeing the rise of the belligerent Chinese Communist Party.
And I saw a red dragon flapping its wings on the Panama Canal.
Great corruption. But as Donald Trump cracks his whip, he will tame the dragon.
A fiery dragon will cross the sky. 6 times before this earth shall die, mankind will tremble and frightened be for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar. An earthquake split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers and muddy fin and snarls about his fellow men.
I saw Donald Trump. He was standing there in like a circus conductor, and he was cracking a whip to tame the dragon.
And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to ply himself too late, for mankind has earned his deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur, will serve the gods their anger stir.
A number of things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter's.
Wow! Can you repeat that again, just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword
in the Pentagon, in the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of in whispered tones talk about the return of the Sumerian gods.
And they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee, King, Lord, and serve.
And I saw the dragon flapping its wings, and it was clapping its teeth. It was clapping, like snapping its teeth at him, gnashing its teeth.
Yet greater sign there be to see as man nears the latter part of the century, and yellow men great power gain from the mighty bear with whom they've lain.
Now, North Korea has reportedly sent more than 10,000 troops to fight in Russia's war against Ukraine, but many among them have fallen. Seoul puts the number of those killed or wounded at more than 1,000, while Kyiv says it's exceeded 3,000.
Now their presence in Russia is reportedly bringing North Korea benefits, including much-needed cash and diplomatic leverage.
We overcame our greatest enemies. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. Do you remember how big that was? And that bear is coming in a different way. Russia is more subtle than you'll ever believe, and they have something that's going to cause all kinds of chaos, and they won't know how it happened. It happened because we were not aware of the weapon that they have.
These mighty tyrants failed to do. They failed to split the world in two, but from their acts a danger bred, an ague leaving many dead, and physics finds no remedy, for this is worse than leprosy. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on the land. But the land that rises from the sea will be dry and clean and soft and free of mankind's dirt, and therefore the source of man's new dynasty. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many years, but time erases memory. You think it strange, but it will be. Oh, many signs for all to see, the truth of this true prophecy.
For a communistic spirit has tried to come over America as an extension from this dragon.
I saw Kim Jong-un and China. They were flapping their wings, and he was taming Kim Jong-un, and he was taming the Chinese party. And he was cracking his whip. It was like an extension that went across the sea, a demonic principality trying to come into Washington, D.C. through the Democratic Party, through back hidden doors.
In my vision, I saw betrayal at a table, and there was no doubt that this is speaking of the betrayal of the USA. America will overcome from the outside, but it will not if the enemy gets so close that it can bite in the house. Russia is a serpent, and the USA is in the way. United States is in the way of an attack that would destroy Israel. And so there's a cynical plot to come as a friend and then betray.
I saw Justin Trudeau, and I saw him being removed from his position.
Justin Trudeau's 9 years as Canadian Prime Minister is coming to an end. Today, he announced he will step down as the leader of the governing Liberal Party.
This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
And even Justin Trudeau and Emmanuel Macron will be dealt with.
There will be revival in Europe, and there's a cracking of the whip with Donald Trump. Watch. Dealing with Putin, the bear putting these people in check, causing revival.
And it was bringing change.
And lands will crack and rend anew. You think it strange, it will come true. And in some far-off distant land, some men, such a tiny band, will leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count, who survives this and then begins the human race again. But not on land already there, but on ocean's bed, stark, dry, and bare.
I see a liberation coming to North Korea, even Kim Jong-un. His days are numbered, for he will be taken out. Even as you see him be eliminated, I will take out his sister, for she is just as much as a tyrant. And my gospel will spread throughout North Korea, for they are not forgotten. This demonic curtain, I hear him say, will be coming down within a day. So pray, pray, pray. I see the buildings, I see them falling, I see the kingdom falling, and I see the people being liberated. I see the missionaries going in.
Russia has turned to the DPRK also now for manpower, as well as munitions, to carry out its war of aggression. Since December of 2024, we have seen DPRK troops join in the fighting in Kursk, marking the first time they have participated in large-scale ground combat operations in more than 70 years. It is also the first time since the Second World War that Russia has invited a foreign force on its territory for a military operation. We are particularly concerned about Moscow's intent to share with Pyongyang satellite and space technologies, which are crucial to an army's communication and intelligence gathering capabilities on the modern battlefield, as we have seen in Ukraine. The DPRK is significantly benefiting from receiving Russian military equipment, technology, and experience, rendering it more capable of waging war against its neighbours.
To South Korea now, where after a dramatic 6-hour-long standoff with security for the suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol, police have called off an attempt to arrest him. If they'd been successful, Yoon would have become the first sitting president to be arrested in South Korea's history. Well, the political drama began on December the 3rd when Mr. Yoon tried to impose martial law, shaking the country and reminding people of the dark days of military rule. Days of protest followed, culminating in Parliament voting to impeach him on the 14th of December, their second attempt to do so. Investigators now have until the 6th of January to arrest him before the current warrant expires. With all the latest on these developments, Jean Mackenzie sent this from Seoul.
The standoff started before dawn. Police blocked the roads around the president's home, pushing back his incensed supporters. As the sun rose, officers moved in on his house to make the arrest. But they were unable to get in, blocked by the president's security team, who formed a human chain to keep them out. At lunchtime, they gave up. An arrest was impossible, they said, and they were concerned for their safety. It's been exactly a month since President Yoon plunged his country into crisis, imposing martial law, ordering troops to storm the parliament. He was soon suspended and is being investigated for starting an insurrection. But he's refused to cooperate. He's ignored all requests to come in for questioning. Through this, Mr. Yoon's supporters have stayed loyal, surrounding his home.
And on December 29th, there was this headline: China directs largest military buildup since 1930s Nazi Germany, expert warns, citing Pentagon report. Defense report says China seeks mind dominance through AI technology in latest psychological warfare operation. The symbol of China is the dragon. Who else seeks to dominate our minds? Yes, that would be the adversary, the dragon. On the eve of the new year, remember, in January, the world transitions from the year of the dragon to the year of the snake, according to the Chinese calendar. But on the eve of the Western world calendar, there was 134 lightning strikes detected within 50 miles of Times Square that lasted 35 minutes. That definitely says pay attention. If there is a city that represents the United States of America the most, that would be New York City. Pay attention, New York City. Pay attention, America. And that pay attention number 113, the 11th chapter of 3rd Nephi, popped up all over the stories of the wildfires. I'm going to talk more about this number in an upcoming video, but look at this screenshot right here. The day that this was all being reported about the LA fires, there was this story right next to it. At least 126 people killed by earthquake near Mount Everest. It kind of reminds me of this scripture in Revelation chapter 8. The angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 angels, which had 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire. And speaking of the angels in Revelation chapter 8, in fact, the last Happy Lady video was all about angels. The name of the city of Los Angeles means the angels. So I did a little bit of research and learned that it's actually a nickname of the original name of the city, which translates to the city of Our Lady, the Queen of Angels of the Little Portion. So I thought, well, who is the Queen of Angels? I did a little bit more research, and according to AI doing some of that research for me, the Queen of the Angels is the title given to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The city is named after the mother of Jesus. In fact, most of the cities in California are named after saints because they were the names of the original missions in those areas. As I looked at this aerial shot of Los Angeles on fire, it looked like the Ring of Fire, known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. Interesting that this is called Pacific Palisades, and it has that Ring of Fire. Now, the Pacific Ring of Fire is where we have all of that volcanic and earthquake activity. The article says, terrifying photo shows wall of flames surrounding Los Angeles. In other words, surrounding the angels. If this isn't spiritual warfare being manifested in the physical, I don't know what is. Again, there's that number showing up everywhere, all over every video, every post, every story pertaining to these fires. The 11th chapter of 3rd Nephi, pay attention, the return of our Savior Jesus Christ. And the city represents his mother. Now, over the Christmas break, we watched the Netflix movie Mary as a family. And I will have to say it took some getting used to in the beginning because I wasn't expecting the way that they portrayed the angel Gabriel. We honestly thought he was supposed to be Satan because he emerges from the shadows, he looks angry, he wears a dark hood, and he's not even wearing a white robe, which is what you would imagine. Then when we saw this shadowy hooded figure wearing black, we realized this was Satan. According to the director, he used this Italian oil painting from 1635 depicting the angel Gabriel in a blue robe as his inspiration in the movie. It's similar to how Jesus Christ was often depicted in artwork, wearing blue and red. In fact, this painting of the angel Gabriel looks very similar to this figure seated next to Christ in Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper. After getting past some of the character depictions in the beginning, I actually really enjoyed the movie, and my girls loved it as well. We were holding back the tears towards the end. They did a great job with the production. Now, this movie stars Anthony Hopkins, and I read that his home did burn down this week in the LA fires. After seeing the angel Gabriel depicted as a shadowy figure emerging from the dark corners of the room, stirring up a feeling of fear, this is not how I imagine the angel Gabriel. You know, we always see him depicted wearing white and shining so bright. So I did some research after the movie. It turns out they based that depiction of him from different accounts in different books of scripture that talk about the angel Gabriel appearing like a man, yet having a face like lightning and eyes like flaming torches. In fact, with each of his appearances, he is described as having frightened the people that he appears to. Zechariah was startled and gripped with fear. This was likely because he appeared out of nowhere. He showed up unannounced. If someone appeared in your room unannounced, you would be startled too. I believe that's why in the movie they show him often emerging from the shadows with piercing blue eyes. And he's an angel that doesn't mess around. When Zechariah expresses doubt in his elderly wife conceiving a child, Gabriel responds by causing him to be mute for 9 months. After all, the angel Gabriel has a pretty important job. According to the Wikipedia, he is described as the guardian angel of the people of Israel. And according to the book of 1 Enoch, chapter 20, Gabriel is the 5th of the 5 angels who keep watch. He is one of the holy angels who is over paradise, the serpents, and the cherubim. Speaking of the 5th angel, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 1, it reads, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God on their foreheads." I was reminded of all the news reports coming out right now talking about how in these LA fires, the trees, the grass, and the shrubs are not burning, just the homes. And in chapter 16, we have a reminder in verse 15, "Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments." Now back to the book of Enoch. And according to chapter 10, the Lord commanded Gabriel to go forth and destroy the children of fornication. Interesting that there's a TV series called Cali-fornication, and it reminds me of a song from the 90s from the Los Angeles band Red Hot Chili Peppers called Cali-fornication. Let's look at the lyrics. Now this was 1999. "Psychic spies from China try to steal your mind's elation. And little girls from Sweden dream of silver screen quotation. If you want these kind of dreams, it's Cali-fornication. It's the edge of the world and all of Western civilization. The sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location. It's understood that Hollywood sells Cali-fornication. Pay your surgeon very well to break the spell of aging. Celebrity skin, is this your chin? Or is that war you're waging? Firstborn unicorn, hardcore soft, and it's the P word. Marry me, girl, be my fairy to the world, be my very own constellation. A teenage bride with a baby inside getting high on information. And buy me a star on the boulevard. It's Cali-fornication. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. And Cobain, can you hear the spheres singing songs off station to station? And Alderain's not far away, it's Cali-fornication. Born and raised by those who praise control of population. Well, everybody's been there, and I don't mean on vacation. Destruction leads to a very rough road, but it also breeds creation. And earthquakes are to a girl's guitar. They're just another good vibration. And tidal waves couldn't save the world from Cali-fornication. Pay your surgeon very well to break the spell of aging. Sicker than the rest, there is no test, but this is what you're craving. Now back to the movie Mary, whom the city of Los Angeles is named after. I did some research during the movie and I came across this interesting fact. It says that Mary's parents, her father, Saint Joachim, fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in hopes of having a child. So there's that number 40 again, pertaining to cleansing and sanctification. And then it showed up again because apparently Mary and Joseph presented baby Jesus to the temple on his 40th day of birth. So when he was 40 days old, he was presented at the temple. On December 5th, California had the 7.0 or higher earthquake at 11:44 a.m. Utah time. I talked all about that in the last video. And this was right before our trip to LA. So the day after this earthquake, this movie gets released. Here is a photo of the red carpet premiere in Hollywood, California. It says, Hollywood embraces the Bible. Mary premieres in California. Interesting that it's in a city named after her. Now, I talked about this in last month's video. I talked about how I felt hesitant traveling to California right after that big earthquake. Again, it was a trip that my husband had planned several months prior. He was really excited about it. He had planned the entire trip, everything we were going to do, and we did it all in less than a week. Anyways, I remember while we were there and we were driving up the Hollywood Hills to get to Universal Studios, and I remember thinking, wow, it's possible that all of this might be very different in the coming months. It's possible that with everything prophesied about the last days, that this might not look the same. Maybe this will be the last time we get to have a trip to California, experiencing it like this, the way that we've always known it. Look at the time on the video, right when I said that. There's that pay attention number 144. But little did I know that exactly a month later, these hills would never look the same again. In fact, the day that the Pope opened those sealed doors, the tomb of Lucifer, look at these news headlines. I noticed these pop up that day. So first, the one to the right, December 29th, it says another X-class flare just occurred, an X 1.59. And then the following day, December 30th, it just won't stop. Another M3.52 class solar flare. I wouldn't rule out another X-class flare in the coming hours. Now, I talked about around this time how things felt really interesting, sort of heavy and hopeless. And then in Idaho and Utah, these strange anomalies were spotted in the sky. The one off to the right says, "What in the actual apocalypse was this yesterday?" And here are more pictures and posts of the image that was on the left. This is where I live in Davis County, Utah, right out in Layton. And this person wrote, "Anybody else see this in the sky over Hill Air Force Base?" Also around this time, these news articles were popping up everywhere, which usually is what happens at the beginning of a year. The news will post Nostradamus predictions. This article gave an example, quote, "The kingdom will be marked by wars so cruel, foes from within and without will arise. A great pestilence from the past returns, no enemy more deadly under the skies. A war in England and the return of the plague." And there's that pay attention number 144, also the 11th hour, 44, the cleansing of the earth or sanctification of the earth. And the article goes on to say, "Through long war, all the army exhausted, so that they do not find money for the soldiers, instead of gold or silver. They will come to coin leather, Gallic brass, and the crescent sign of the moon." The article references speculation between France and Turkey for some kind of settled dispute. It also mentions the threat of nuclear war and decrease in the influence of Western countries and the emerge of new world powers. Also, significant improvements in illness prevention and treatment. And then, quote, "Garden of the World near the new city in the path of the hollow mountains will be seized and plunged into the tub, forced to drink waters poisoned by sulfur. The wording of that almost sounds like the Garden of Eden and the New Jerusalem. So in other words, the American continent or North America. The interpretation of this, according to this article, is predictions of volcanic eruptions and floods in Brazil. Interesting, underneath that it says, last but not least, the prediction of a mysterious leader emerging to form an aquatic empire. It reminds me of the scripture in Revelation referencing the beast rising out of the sea. Then the article made comparisons to other predictions from the past. This one here making a reference to a visit from aliens during a major sporting event. Now again, these are news stories circulating around the world right now. At the end of the article, it talks about discovery of a new energy source. It also mentions the conflict between Russia and Ukraine finally coming to an end in 2025. Speaking of a major sporting event, this is probably one of the biggest events that happens every year here in America. This year, the Super Bowl will be held on February 9th in New Orleans, where we just had that attack. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I've continued to see 113 all over stories and posts pertaining to the LA fires. It's crazy to see this popping up everywhere. Pay attention. This one here pertaining to all the celebrity homes that have so far burned down in these fires. Now, of course, the numbers have significantly increased since this initial report. Now, after hearing that the insurance companies out in California were dropping everyone's fire insurance right before this fire broke out, so my husband thought this was interesting. He texted me and said, I just read that insurances have dropped fire insurance for a lot of people in Draper. Maybe that's the next place that will catch fire. Now, I don't know if that's why this is happening, but it was just interesting that there is that pattern where we see fire insurance being dropped on people who live on hills or mountains. We notice that shortly afterwards, there's always some kind of fire or destruction in that area. It's not uncommon, though, for insurance companies to drop people who are of high risk. So this isn't to say that that's what's going to happen if you live in Draper. You can guarantee your home's going to be in a fire. It could be that the insurance companies are taking note of what is happening in California and they are dropping their high-risk members. And there's that number 111. The pay attention word for me is Guardian. This is the Guardian News. This is on a time-lapse video of the fires burning in California. And remember, we have the San Gabriel Mountains that caught fire. Gabriel is the guardian of the people of Israel, the children of Israel. And finally, some positive word from our church. This is from the church newsroom. It reads, as fire continues to break out in Southern California, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is organizing emergency support on various levels. Emergency supplies are being provided to those in need through local bishops, storehouses, and the Bishop's Central Storehouse in Salt Lake City. Today, for example, 1,500 cases of bottled water are being delivered to areas most impacted by the wildfires. Approximately 1,000 Latter-day Saints have been evacuated and are staying with relatives, friends, fellow church members, or other lodging. More than 30 Latter-day Saints homes have been destroyed. Church buildings have been made available for community staging and shelter. All missionaries are safe and accounted for and are continuing their service. The Los Angeles Temple, which closed on January 8th, reopened on the 9th and is operating on its regular schedule. Local leaders deeply appreciate the outpouring of support and willingness to volunteer from so many. Until this is needed, those who wish to help can donate to the church's humanitarian efforts or offer volunteer support through local organizations. And I found this stunning photo circulating. It's of the Los Angeles Temple with the fires burning behind it. Absolutely stunning and powerful. I am reminded of Lloyd Newell, who was the narrator for the spoken word every Sunday with the Tabernacle Choir. He had done it for years and did an amazing job. And last summer, he was called, along with his wife, to serve as mission leaders for the California Los Angeles mission. And I can just imagine how busy they are right now serving this community. And speaking of missionary work, right around this time, I came across this scripture I was reading in the Book of Mormon, and there is that pay attention number twice at the same time, page 144 at 1:44 a.m. And he's talking about bringing the knowledge of the gospel of Jesus Christ once again to his people here in America in the latter days. He says in verse 6, "Behold, I shall take these plates, which contain these prophesyings and revelations, and put them with the remainder of my record." Now again, these are prophecies about the last days here in America. And speaking of Christ coming again, I love this. There's that pay attention number again. The 11th chapter of 3rd Nephi. Pay attention. It definitely was a fantastic video. She wrote down in the post, it says, "The end is fire." And this month, President Nelson released this message in the Liahona magazine. He wrote, "The Lord has warned us that the enemy is combined. To protect our families and thwart Satan's growing influence, our worshiping together as saints becomes even more essential. Unity, the prophet Joseph Smith taught, is strength." Here are some highlights that I clipped from his message. He said, "The Savior is calling us to leave behind the wickedness of the world and gather to Him." That feels so appropriate right now with the LA fires. He also said, "We gather to the Savior as we submit ourselves with patience and courage to all things which the Lord seeth fit to inflict upon us." Again, so appropriate with all the calamities that are happening right now. He's telling us that as we go through these things, they actually gather us to the Savior. And then he said, "We are called to give God's children the opportunity to become full heirs to all He has promised His faithful children. That is the greatest service we could ever render." And of course, this is talking about missionary work. We are all missionaries. Now, I posted this over on the Happy Lady Gems Instagram page, and then I decided to redo this video, add this part in, and then re-upload it to YouTube. So sorry for the delay, but I felt this was so important. So last year, the church announced that they had called new mission presidents and companions for 144 missions worldwide. There is that number, 144. The 144,000 spoken of in the book of Revelation and in Doctrine and Covenants, which we're studying this year. These are the high priests ordained to the Melchizedek priesthood who have power over all of the earth and all of the nations to gather Israel. And then just a couple days ago, the church announced this, that 164 missions will now have new presidents and companions beginning July 1st of this year. The Lord is about to do something amazing in 2025. Okay, I'm glad you made it through that part of the video. So let's go ahead real quick and talk about some of these themes and patterns. So 2025 is the year of the snake. We are coming to the end of the year of the dragon. This is all happening in January, according to the Chinese calendar. This is a year where we are going to see the fury of the adversary's kingdom work like never before as a desperate attempt to try and keep control over this earth and the hearts of the people. But as we're seeing things unfold right now, and it's only January, It's clear that the battlefield is blazing. On both sides of the veil, there is some major spiritual warfare happening right now over this earth and over the hearts of the people. The devil knows his time is up. His days are numbered on this earth. That is why we will see some desperate attempts to keep control over the domains that he has been controlling for so long. But as we see a lot of that being destroyed, especially in places where he has had such a stronghold, pretty much the places where the headquarters of his kingdom have always been, we are seeing it all crumble and fall to the ground. And this is just the beginning. As more truth comes forward and more of the enemy's plans are exposed, we will see people step down from high positions of power, tyrannical rulers of nations be removed, corrupt corporations and businesses close their doors, and a lot of people who have been involved in all of these things are going to go through experiences that cause them remorse, regret, pain, and a desire to change. Probably not everyone, but it will be a wake-up call for a lot of people. And as people take those steps to move forward and desire to change their ways, to become better, the armies of the adversary's kingdom who were working through these people and corporations, organizations, governments, etc., they will lose their influence and power, which will accelerate the fall of Babylon, the fall of the adversary's kingdom here on the earth. And after all of the trials, tribulations, challenges, and calamities, those who make it through that, I believe, will have a desire to help make everything better. And we're seeing that right now with so many people on so many levels. But I think the most exciting part will be when we finally start to see these places open up where temples have been announced, but we haven't been able to build them because of the governments in those nations. When we see those walls start to come down and those nations open up, there will be a flood of conversion to Jesus Christ and his gospel like we've never seen before on this earth. That's what the scriptures tell us, but you can also just feel it. Something has definitely changed this year. And as we see those forces of opposition try to work against that transition of leadership and power here in the United States, we will see the powers of heaven work incredible miracles like we've never seen before. I think it's going to be an incredible year. Things are definitely going to be biblical. My mom just called me today and she said, "Oh my goodness, I've been trying to get a hold of you. Let's talk about all of these things that are going on. I want to know your thoughts." And I didn't have time in that moment to share with her all of my thoughts because there's too many. So I said, "Mom, I'm putting out a video today or tomorrow. So as soon as it's out, I will send you a link. Watch the video and then call me back and then we'll talk." It's just too much to explain. And I think that's why I first started doing these videos, because I was talking to so many friends and family about current events, things going on, and what to make of it all. And usually it would take over an hour to have that conversation with each person, which got to be way too much, way too long. And I found that it was easier just to put all of my thoughts in a video and just send it out and say, "Hey, here's my thoughts. Here's what I've been noticing. What do you think?" So that's sort of how this channel has evolved. That's what I do with my Happy Lady videos. I share with you everything that I see going on, everything that's coming my way, whether it's things coming directly at me, things that you're sending me, or things that I'm observing from the sidelines. I put it all together in one place in a video, and then we get to have that conversation down below. So I always enjoy that part. I love it when you guys comment. I love it when you share with me your experiences and add those additional witnesses. As always, thanks for your support and encouragement. So on the phone with my mom today, she said, "Tell me your thoughts about Jimmy Carter's funeral." And though I haven't spent too much time pondering about that, I did find it significant that he, as a former president of this nation, passed away at the age of 100, a century. It reminded me of another president, Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and how we recently celebrated his 100th birthday, which is very significant. So we have these two leaders, these two presidents, who have lived to the age of 100, the age of a century, something that's never been done before as President of the United States, and something that's never been done before as President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, Jimmy Carter was president before my lifetime, so I was born in the Ronald Reagan era. Now, Jimmy Carter belonged to the Democratic Party, and you probably noticed a theme from everything that I shared earlier in the video of sort of this almost death to the Democratic Party, death of the deep state, the end of corruption in order to bring about unity, which is what we need to bring about Zion. It's clear that the adversary is always looking for ways to divide. He does that through manipulation, fear, anger, greed, power, selfishness, all of these things that have one thing as their core, which is obviously the adversary, but also that seed of fear. Fear is what you use to manipulate. You can blackmail people using fear. You can manipulate people also through fear. Once you plant that seed and it starts to take root, that's how you create division. All of those corrupt fruits that come from that corrupt tree are all centered around fear, pride, envy, jealousy, a hunger for power, vanity, gossip, or evil speaking, all of these things that create division because of that underlying seed of fear. Now, of course, the opposite of fear is faith. So when we put our faith in God, we know that we don't have to be afraid. We are prepared for come what may because we know that God is in control. We trust that, which blesses us with peace, which empowers us to rise up and be optimistic, hopeful, joyful, and powerful in the Lord's kingdom. Now, when you don't have that faith and you are ruled by fear, then the world looks very different. Your reasoning for your choices looks very different. You don't have that peace, that security, that stability, that trust. In fact, you're usually riddled with anxiety because you don't trust anyone. You start to see everyone as selfish. They're all just out for themselves. So you can't really rely on anyone or trust anyone because everyone else around you is also ruled by fear. And when fear is your motivator, you never know what to expect. Your world can get shaken up pretty quickly on a daily basis. Things, situations, and people can become unpredictable. You never know what to expect, what to plan for, how to prepare. So all of this unknown, things that you don't have control over, but you're trying to control because of fear, fills you with anxiety, as it does the people that you surround yourself with. But when you have faith and you put your faith in God, God the Father, and His Son, Jesus Christ, you lose that fear. You lose that need to be in control over things that you don't always have control over. You feel more willing, more flexible, more easygoing because of that peace. You've learned that even if you can't trust your fellow man, you can always trust the Lord. In fact, that's been the motto of our nation since the beginning. In God we trust. I may not know everything that my neighbor is going to do, or drivers out on the road are going to do, or even what politicians are going to do. But I always know that if I ask, I will be heard and I will be answered. If I knock, a door is going to open. If I seek, I am going to find. And that is what is motivating me for 2025. I'm spending more time every day being intentional about asking, knocking, and seeking. And I'm not taking a passive approach. I am very active. I keep a daily journal in my phone, and anytime I have thoughts, anytime I want to continue pondering something with the Lord, I will write that in my journal. And because I have my phone with me wherever I go, that means that I always have my journal with me. And I can keep this conversation going every day, anywhere, anytime. That is what helps build my relationship with the Lord. And as I recognize Him opening those doors, giving me those answers, pointing me in directions, I quickly acknowledge that. And I express my gratitude in prayer, in my journal, in conversation with other people, in my YouTube videos. And I find that the more that I do this, it builds a momentum that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it starts to affect everyone and everything around me for the better. Now, I don't know about you, but at the beginning of this year, I just started to have these strong thoughts and feelings of, I'm getting so tired of having to suffice or put up with creations and options that have been put out by the world. Whether it's music, entertainment, clothing, basically all things that bring us pleasure. Whether it's artwork, fragrances, nature, places to go to have fun with your family, snacks and food, things to drink, all of these things that stimulate our senses and bring us a sense of happiness and pleasure. I have been feeling tired of the options that we sometimes have to settle for. And I'm sure there's a lot of you who relate. Sometimes what that means or what that looks like is having to spend extra time or additional money to have something better, to create better options. Whether you're buying ingredients to make better food or having to create the things that you know would be better for you, but they haven't been created yet, or there's just not a lot of options out there that are easily available. In fact, to give an example of this, over the winter break, I found myself one day listening to classical movie soundtracks because I was so tired of regular music. I like a lot of stimulation, whether it's with music, smells and fragrances, flavors, colors. I'm not one for boring and bland. You could have a really nutritious, healthy meal, but if it tastes bland and boring, it's not going to be fulfilling or satisfying or pleasurable. Same with music. You could have a beautiful melody, beautiful chords, but if the lyrics are empty or they're not rich in meaning, again, that music is not always going to be satisfying or fulfilling. And it's the same way when I go shopping for clothes. I will spend hours online going through clothing racks at the stores. I'll spot a color or a pattern that I love, and I'll pull out the shirt and half of the fabric is missing. Or I will find a design that I love, but the colors are too bland or the pattern is too much. I definitely have that personality where if I really, really want something and I can't find it, it doesn't exist, I usually will just make it myself. This happens a lot, and I started to get lots of ideas at the beginning of this year. Usually when that happens, I try to suppress them and I think, when am I ever going to have time for that? There's no way. And especially as I've mentioned in previous videos, in 2024, it felt as though I hit a lot of roadblocks, a lot of speed bumps and obstacles with my ideas and dreams and goals. But I tell you what, things have already been different in 2025. And that's why I'm feeling very optimistic. I'm definitely feeling things shift all around me and all over the world. We're seeing the demolition of Babylon happening every day all around the world, which means there's a need and an opportunity to beautify this world, to beautify the earth, to make things better. And I think more and more people are starting to feel that way. And so all I'm going to say about that is I've been writing down lots of new ideas. I've already been able to execute some of those ideas. So again, I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling motivated. And I think I'm going to have some exciting news to share with you around the time of March or April. I also plan to have some good news between now and my next Happy Lady video. I plan to put out some other videos on this channel, possibly before then, that are not necessarily Happy Lady videos, but they're more like my documentary style videos and my montages. I have a lot of things I've been working on over the past several months, and I'm feeling really organized and motivated lately to finally finish those and put those out there, so stay tuned for all of that. I'd love to hear all of the things that you're working on. Please share it down in the comments. If you've got some great ideas, some awesome goals, some things that you're creating, whether it's a YouTube channel, music, a book, a product, whatever it is. If it's something that you truly believe will beautify this world and make it a better place, please share it down below in the comments. Share your story, what motivated and inspired you, steps that you're taking, where you're at in that process, even if right now it's just a dream. I think it's so inspiring and encouraging and motivating when everyone shares their experiences and their story. As I was pondering this, I was reminded of Article of Faith number 1. There's that pay attention number 113, the first of the 13 Articles of Faith. And it says, if there's anything virtuous, lovely, of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. And all 4 of my kids are on board with removing anything from their rooms that are not virtuous or lovely. Now, I mentioned over on social media, I think it was on the Happy Lady Facebook page, usually over on the Happy Lady Gems Instagram account, I usually just post stories, but over on Facebook, you'll find posts. I had shared this week that ever since this past Monday, I have been feeling really hopeful and really optimistic. And I have to say, I didn't clarify over there that it's not because of anything happening right now in the world or in the news. In fact, I was feeling that way before I even saw the headlines that morning. I will say that I had a lot of prayers answered over the weekend in powerful ways. I had some miracles, a lot of tender mercies, plentiful witnesses that my prayers were making it up to heaven and my petitions were being heard. When you acknowledge that your prayers are being heard and you express that gratitude, I testify as a personal witness that opens up the windows of heaven even more. It builds that momentum and gets you into this place that not only strengthens your faith, but motivates you to keep the conversation going, to keep asking, continue pondering, and recognizing all of the ways that the Lord's hand is moving in your life, which makes you feel more hopeful and more optimistic. And it just snowballs from there in a good way. So after seeing all of these amazing things happening over the weekend and sharing it with friends and family, having these private conversations, building our faith together, and cheering for and supporting each other through these experiences, I have seen the bands or chains or powers of the enemy, of the adversary, loosen and break off of myself and my loved ones, people in my life. I began to recognize all the different ways that the adversary was claiming dominion over people and things that don't belong to him. As I looked out the window at my property or inside the walls of my home, things in my kitchen or my car, my business, all things that I have stewardship over, I started to notice all these different ways that the adversary was trying to claim dominion over these things. And I had become oblivious to it or used to it, felt powerless about it, or even helpless and hopeless. And I started to realize on Monday, it was Monday morning, that things didn't have to be that way. By working with the Lord, I could claim dominion, whether it's my garden or my yard, the food that I make, the condition of my home, right? These are all things that I have a stewardship over, and recognizing that and feeling grateful about it, thinking, I really like my home and I want to do a better job keeping up on it, keeping things organized and tidy and clean, and not just my home, but all of these other areas of my life that needed organizing and cleaning. In fact, here is an example of something that I organized. This is the inside of an armoire in my bedroom. I organized all of my jewelry and sunglasses, and it felt amazing. I have really been hearing lately, my house is a house of order. And so I've been taking that seriously with my own home. And right around this time, I came across this. It's as though Facebook could hear my thoughts. It says, when moms tell me they don't have a system for scheduling chores and studies. And there's that pay attention number 311, 3 Nephi chapter 11, and the 11th hour. In fact, as I was thinking about this, I have it right here. I wasn't planning on this, but here it is. I just found a notebook in my husband's office upstairs. It was blank. It actually says Rise Up. Maybe that's a brand or a company. I don't know. But I love it. I thought, yes, rise up. Rise up to your stewardship. Rise up to your role and your responsibility as a child of God. Rise up to your potential. Rise up to your role as a mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, a daughter, a son, a grandparent, a neighbor, a teacher, a colleague, a student. Whatever it is, rise up. This is how we overcome Babylon. We rise up. This is what will happen at the return of the Lord. We will rise up. I love it. So what I did was I took some pages in here and I categorized them. So I have divided it up into sections, and I have a section for my YouTube channel where I write down all of my ideas for my different channels, and I leave extra space so I can make notes and plans for how to execute these ideas. This is a way for me to organize everything and not lose track of the things that I'd like to do on my channels. Then I have a section for hobbies, things that I want to learn, explore, enjoy. This is so important, and I hardly spent any time doing these things in 2024. So that's all going to change this year, and it already has. And then I have a whole section for tasks. In other words, a to-do list. Things that need to get done that I definitely don't want to forget about. So I organize and prioritize them in this book. And the best part is checking things off. It's so motivating to check something off that you've had sort of hovering over you for several months. So having this book and being able to see things on paper and keep it all organized and write it all down has made a huge difference for me. Because of my ADHD, I try to avoid my phone as much as possible when it comes to things like this. I have so many apps on my phone, and I know there's an app for everything, but I thought, if I use my phone for one more thing, it's just going to add to distractions. So any chance I have to not use my phone means less chances of being distracted. That's why I love notebooks. Anyways, I just wanted to share all of that with you in hopes to inspire or motivate or encourage you with whatever hopes, goals, and dreams that you have right now. I know that now is the perfect time. It's the perfect opportunity to do all that we can to beautify this earth, to beautify this world, and bring people to Christ. I know that if that is our motivation, to make this world a better place according to the Lord's will, and especially to bring people to Christ, I know that we will have heaven's support. And not only can we survive these last days, but we can thrive. We can rise up above the doom and the gloom and all of the things that we don't have control over, and we can experience excitement and joy and, of course, peace. I know this is true and I say it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Thanks so much for joining me today, you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week. And if things haven't been so wonderful, just know that you're in my prayers, and I pray that you can experience God's love, His peace, and His blessings in your life.